All right, folks.
We're live.
Ladies and gentlemen, children, boys and girls all around the world, you are looking at us live. This is the DLR Cast, the only podcast by and for fans of the mighty Diamond, David Lee Roth. I'm here as always. I'm Steve. I'm here as always with my good friend Darren Paltrowit, where we try to balance the line and straddle the tightrope of being fans, but not fanboys, especially as we get further into the tour here, where Darren, you have now seen, count them, 5 shows.
5 shows. I don't know what that says about me personally. I wasn't planning on seeing 5 shows on this tour. I've seen 5 shows on this tour. When we last did this series, I had seen 3. I planned on only seeing 3. The wife said, "Hey, I'm getting stir crazy teacher summer. We should see another show." And we did. And then it was, I think we should see another show. And then that's how you get to 5.
So I think before we go any further, to say the least, one, huge props to Mrs. Paltrowit for joining you on these epic adventures.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, I've been reading a bunch of different reviews, and a lot of them have been more charitable than the YouTube and social media comments. Than the YouTube and social media comments. Let's just leave it there. I think a lot of folks have certainly been charitable, but for a number of very good reasons. But I think if anyone can speak very informed and really, as far as, from show to show to show, that's you.
I appreciate that. I've kind of cycled on this kind of stuff where I'll be at one of the shows and go, "This is great." And then a couple of bum notes will happen. I'll go, "This is really bad. This is embarrassing." And then whenever that happens, I look around and everyone is having a good time. And Dave is feeding off that energy. The band is feeding off the energy. And then it's coming back to the crowd. And it's just this big, big love fest. And really none of that comes through with these compression-based phone videos.
Man, they really don't. Ain't that the truth, man? I got to tell you, that's one of the things that's really stood out to me from day one. Most of those videos, and I'm not a huge tech guy. I'm sure, some phones are better than others, and I don't say this as a rule for most. I watch a lot of live footage on YouTube. Not all of them seem so sterile and energy deficient as so many of these Dave ones have. And yet, from what I've read, a lot of reviews and from other people commenting who've been at the shows, and particularly from you who have been there, the energy it's not what you've awesome. It's there. People are digging it.
It's awesome. And for some reason, Dave, I'm going to come to Dave's defense in a lot of respects. There's other things like I know, for the record, I know a lot more than I'm going to share on this podcast, from talking to people. But at the same time, I think that Dave is getting all the scrutiny of Frankie Valli, Vince Neil, and certain people. There's certain frontmen who are getting that just huge axe over every single thing, especially from people who weren't there. And then there's other people that seem like they could do no wrong. Like, can Scott Stapp do any wrong on these Creed reunion things? There's certain people who are untouchable even when they're having bad nights or they've done controversial things. But there's this forever axe to grind with so many of these people on these comment boards. And surprising me how many of them are Van Halen diehards or self-described Van Halen diehards. I'm okay with us throwing barbs at Dave because I think we've seen the bigger picture. We've done our homework. But when somebody goes, "I saw them live in '84 and they were the best band ever, and look what happened now," and you go, well, maybe you weren't following Dave very closely the last 40-ish years. Maybe you've missed a thing or two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny. I was just thinking, if YouTube was around, say, in 1986, you can imagine the people slagging in the comment sections during the Eat 'em and Smile tour, which by all intents and purposes, or tents and porpoises, wherever you might lie, Dave sounded great. And we've talked about this so many times. I think on the majority of the Van Halen tour, the reunion tours, 2007, the first reunion, 12 with a Different Kind of Truth, 2015. He held his own for the most part, I think, and was there. listen, for the last 30 years, Dave has not been anything like the previous 20, 25. That's just a fact. And you could put that right up front. If you're expecting Dave 1985, it's never coming back, man. And that's just what it is. Are the shows fun? Is he doing his homework? Is the band kick ass? Let me ask you this. Does any of this, you've seen 5 shows.
Yes.
Does it come across as just basically a money grab?
By no stretch on any planet is this a money grab. There are some shows where they're being paid a lot of money, but if you look at how many salaries there are on this tour, not just the people on the stage, but behind the scenes, and they're not staying at Holiday Inn Expresses, that kind of a thing. There are a lot of tours that are bus tours. The tour will go, because we have the bus, we're not paying for hotels. You know what I'm talking about right there?
Oh, sure, sure.
No, they're staying in the hotels, whether or not they're provided. They're not skimping on the catering. They're not skimping on the accommodations.
They're not skimping on the production. I mean, they're not showing up and using the venue's backline, like casino shows. These aren't just fly-ins.
Correct. So they're it's not a cash grab in terms of the money going in and out. It's not a cash grab in terms of the effort. There's people saying, oh, he's phoning it in, blah 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 blah. No, I have a different perspective in seeing this show 5 times. One was a shorter set because it was M3, but it's a go nonstop 60 to 90 minutes. I say 60. None of the shows were 60. I think Indiana, which was a disaster show, which we could talk about a little later. I didn't see that one. I've watched the video online. I've spoken to people who were there. That was a disaster show. That was 70 because they cut out extended intros and banter. It was not a good show for Dave or the situation. But otherwise, the 75 to 85 minutes that they've been doing is go, go, go. Dave does not leave the stage once.
I was just going to say that he is on stage the entire time. There's no extended solos. There's none of him catching a breather, off stage, right? He is on there from start to finish. And I've watched a lot of videos and I could see a couple times where it's like, woo, you could see where he's like, I got to catch my breath here, whether it's right before this chorus or between songs. I mean, he's working hard.
So not only is he singing, and yes, that's the thing. People go, oh, you call that singing? Okay, whether you call it vocalizing or singing or harmonizing or shouting, alternating with the one-liners, interacting with the crowd, doing the limbo routine, which popped up in a couple of shows, and the haka, which popped up in a couple of shows, and the, what do you call that twirly stick thing? I know that's not flattering. What do you call that?
I don't know.
That, and it's not like he just sits down like Carlos Santana does. It's not like that. It's not like, hey, Alistrada's ripping into a solo, Dave's going to disappear for 5 minutes. Like even Rick Nielsen, you and I love Cheap Trick, you even more than me. Rick Nielsen leaves the stage.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
High energy guy. And he's only going to be on stage usually 60 minutes. If it's a support slot, 60 or less, headlining 80 or less, he leaves the stage.
Yeah.
Dave does not leave the stage once during this set.
Backing up a minute regarding a lot of the comments and the slagging, which have been, I mean, I guess you could say been pretty much overwhelming negative. And for me, well, 2 things strike me. Number one, an easy way to get clickbait is to just come up with, and I've seen numerous of these commentary videos. I'm not going to name who they are. That's their thing. Good. That whatever works, man. That's great. It's have at it. Everybody has an opinion, but it's almost overkill. It's almost piling on. It's an easy way to get clickbait. Do you know what I mean? It's like with a massive Dave Panama performance is horrible, and the YouTube graphics, which we're all sick of right now. I'm as sick of that as I'm hearing like and subscribe every 10 seconds. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the easy thing right there. The other thing is that it's not all bad. There's some highlights, and I defy anybody that, listen, vocal cords being what they are. Sure. There's so few, everybody of this generation has faded some. They all have.
They all have, unless they're doing like a 4-minute cameo out of nowhere, like Steven Tyler at the Ozzy thing, where you go, "Oh my God, he's still got it."
Well, yeah, but he also hasn't sung in a year.
Watch him do a 75-minute show,
right?
And you'll go, "Oh, okay." So Steven Tyler is Buck Johnson doing the high notes.
There's a reason why they can't. Steven Tyler can't sing that way anymore. That's why they're not touring. He doesn't have it. So I think it's certainly, like I said, real easy way to get clickbait and all that. And if there was anything next, there was nothing more predictable than this kind of slagging that Dave's been getting. I think,
yes,
you just knew it, of course.
So to recap, the first show I saw was M3 in Maryland. That was back in May. Then he took a little bit of a break, announced the tour within like 48 hours of crushing it at M3. And I saw the Atlantic City show, which was not great. It's not a great venue inside the Hard Rock Hotel, which used to be the Trump Taj Mahal. It's just a banquet hall that happens to be a concert venue too. A lot of it was tarped off, not great sound. He looked like he was having fun on stage, but just it started off bad. The opening notes of Panama were off, and you go, "Oh no!"
Ooh.
Long Island show, 2 nights later, great show. I talked about that on Dave Unchained with Dave Criblez. Yes, that is how you say his last name.
Thank you.
Great recent interview he did with Sebastian Maniscalco. He's a legit interviewer. Despite him being in this Van Halen universe, Criblez has been interviewing greats for decades. I think he recently unearthed the late 90s Eddie interview that he did. Respect to those guys. I like to say that the DLR Cast is the one Van Halen podcast that gets along with all the other podcasts. Like, we're cool with Bogus Otis. We're cool with And the Cradle and the Podcast of Rock, which just hit episode 200, I believe.
Woo, that's impressive.
We're cool with Eric Senich and Booked on Rock, etc. So pats on the back, but that was the third show, and I thought I was done. And then Mrs. Paltrowit said, "Hey, we could see that show in Pennsylvania at Wind Creek, the former Sands Bethlehem." And I said, "You really want to see Dave again?" She goes, "I'm doing it for you." But yeah, I went, okay. And I went, great show. Some of our listeners were there. Ramses Rios, awesome. The Mojo Dojo. You see, I've been calling him Ramses the whole time, and he says Ramses. I think he's saying his name wrong between you and me, but there is not a nicer human being on this planet than Ramses. We love his work. Since our last episode, he's put up a new video or two. I believe he's at the show right now. And
tonight in Catoosa, Oklahoma.
He is there. He was at the show 2 nights before that, front row. His Instagram, I think it's the Mojo Dojo 90, had some great front row photos. Dave definitely knows who Ramses is, and I mean that in a good way.
I wonder if has he met him personally? Met Dave? Do you know?
January 2020, he met Dave in Vegas.
Oh, very cool.
And there's a photo or two that exists somewhere, but what a nice, great, creative, hardworking, non-egotistical guy. Simple as that. You don't say that and see that in a lot of creatives. And I also met Bill. I don't know if he wants me to dox him and give his last name. Bill from Pennsylvania. Great guy, listens to the show. There's Cindy from Michigan. She's great, etc. But I don't wear gear that says, "Hey, DLR Cast."
Right. We don't have any merch just yet.
And it's a good thing that I did not, because I don't want to blow up the spot of the person. But somebody I was walking around with goes, we're in the casino, and goes, "That's Jerry. That's Dave's manager, Jerry, and that's Tom." And I was part of the introductions and met them. I posted a photo with Jerry. I asked her for a photo. She said yes. And she said, "Jerry, nice to meet you." And I said, "Oh, nice to meet you." I didn't say, "Hi, I'm Darren. I wrote the book about your client that you probably hate and have the podcast that is skeptical about your client. Nice to meet you." I did not do that. I don't know if they knew who I was, but I did find out that they do know who the super fans are on Team Dave.
Well, the fact that you got in to the show is no problem. Probably means you're safe. So
Yeah, they definitely are aware of people. Something, and I'm going to give a little empathy right here. It's not really widely known. There are a lot of threats and a lot of crazy things that go in Team Dave's direction. And the Stalker episode that he had where he talked about Dell, that's
the podcast episode.
I don't know if that's a combination of like 5 different people. I don't know if it's a fabricated thing, but it does sound like he's had a lot of troubled fans, and that might be why he's a little gun shy with meet and greets, a little gun shy with being photographed out in the open.
A lot of heavy security. He always has security with him when he's out, for the most part, out and about, right?
Exactly. So I've got some empathy and all that. So again, the Pennsylvania show was great. Set list change. Do we want to talk about the set list change? Or
yeah, I'd love to, because let's hit it because I know there have been a couple changes. I was checking them out. I guess straight up, I was very surprised and extremely happy to see somebody get me a doctor in the set list, and I thought that went over big. I thought that went over. I mean, musically, I can't tell from the crowd, but sounded like it to a degree. But the band's performance was spot on. The backup singers, I thought that was a great addition. That's always been one of my favorite Van Halen songs.
Yeah, so I think I said it on the Dave and Dave Unchained podcast, where I said, hey, there's a couple of songs in the set list that are a little bit of dead weight, and they should get rid of those two and maybe put in Beautiful Girls and Feel Your Love Tonight. And the next show, I think, was New Hampshire, and they did that. And I went, coincidence, or I don't know. But
they dropped Atomic Punk, right?
They dropped Atomic Punk. They just outright added in Beautiful Girls, which was on the 2020 shows that they did.
Although it's interesting because Atomic Punk was in last night the night before on the 29th in Oklahoma.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm looking at this now, as a matter of fact. And Somebody Get Me a Doctor was there. Beautiful Girls is the 5th song.
So yeah. I read that in the Blabbermouth article, and I thought that was just a copy and paste error, because if you look at the rest of that article, every time they write about Dave, it's the first 2 or 3 paragraphs are new or refreshed, and then the rest of that is the copy and paste to all the prior stuff.
I'm looking at a set list from a YouTube video somebody named Fake Fan put up, and he has a set list here. I didn't get all the way through to track 15, Atomic Punk, but it is listed here. So. And Somebody Get Me a Doctor was number 11 after Mean Street. I was going to say, I really love the breakdown of Mean Street. I said this in our last episode, I really love the different excursions the band and the singers are taking to some of these songs. I don't forever be mystified why the greatest excursion of all is the second track of the second song in the set list with Drop Dead Legs, but I'm glad it's there.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we're going to have to do some research to find out if that's just a typo about Atomic Punk coming back, because I don't think it did. What I had heard was Atomic Punk was dropped because they just knew it wasn't getting a reaction, that enough buzz had spread, and it was so catastrophic to the point that Dave could look at and go, oh, their eyes are glazing over on that one. And then that's when they swapped in Somebody Get Me a Doctor. And Beautiful Girls, again, was outright added, and then they did a swap on those other 2. I wouldn't be surprised if more flipping happens by the last shows in Napa. It sounds like everything is rehearsed and ready, and it's just Dave all of a sudden goes, you know what we're doing? We're doing this, and we've already rehearsed it for 6 months, and you know how to play it, and there you go.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this guy... he posted up yesterday. We got 5,200 views. Maybe, I don't know if he just copy and pasted the set list from another show somewhere and assumed it was the same running order. I don't know. So, let's talk about the band. I know there's never been any one spot in the show where he's introducing everybody, right? And no big Beatle bow at the end or anything like that. Or, I mean, are they all saying goodbye at the end every night, or what? I mean, so two questions. First off,
yeah.
The band is not getting a full intro every night, correct?
The band is not getting a full intro. The band, every show I've been at or watched video of, there was the bow at the end. I don't know if the Disaster Indiana show had a bow, but the other ones did have a bow. I'm not sure if M3 in Maryland did, but half the shows, I think Francis got called out in a good way, where he asked him to stop and he goes, hey, the drummer takes the biggest beating of the night. And then he does the joke and goes, when I met Fran, he was 6'3" and now he's travel size. Ha 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 ha. And you see Francis laugh, fake laugh rather. And then it's a kudos, that kind of a thing. Ryan Wheeler got the shout out, singled out thing at the New Jersey and Long Island shows I saw. I don't know if he got them in any others. Al,
and I was gonna say they are doing the Beatle bow. Yeah, as I've been calling it.
Sure.
Yeah, and a lot of the videos I saw just cut it off. I mean, I didn't see a full cutoff, but I know they're doing that. I was just wondering more if was that every single night, or it's also, I'm kind of curious too. And this is talk about niche, man. I'm talking about minutia stuff. It's like, who's lining up next to Dave? Is that a set thing every night? Who's on his right side, who's on his left side? I've seen Francis on one side. Again, that's too much minutia, even for this podcast. I've
never asked to people who might know that. There's certain things that I just go, oh, tell me all the gossip. Tell me all the gossip. And I don't mean people who are necessarily around right now. I mean to all eras of Dave's 70s forward. I'll go, what's the deal with that? And then there's other things I forget to ask about. So sometimes we get people listening to this show like, can you find out what drumhead was used on this 1988 session? I go, why would I ask that? I want to know. I want to know what was on the catering rider.
Right.
That's more interesting to me. So, going back to what I was saying, Ryan's gotten his solo features. Francis has gotten his thing. Al, he's kind of gotten like Al sounds great, or hit it Al, or guitar.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Yeah.
That's all he gets. Danny, I've heard his name said a few times. I don't think he's gotten a shout out. I remember he got a shout out in January 2020 in Vegas, and Dave was kind of making fun of him for being in Warrant back in the day.
Oh, no.
That's all I remember. But, I'll tell you, Danny Wagner can probably play every song on every instrument on that stage.
I forgot what show I was watching, but Dave was talking about, he was, and I can't even remember which song it was before, but he was talking about, he said, my good friend Ozzy Osbourne does the double Jesus. He put both hands up, and then he said, and fine singer and good guy John Bon Jovi does the single Jesus, and he put one hand up. Yeah. And it was just, I don't know, that kind of cracked me up.
Yeah, he has a number of those that he might have done it 2 or 3 times on this tour, but he hasn't done it 10 times. It's like he has a rotating set list of stories that kind of come out. Right. And the Marilyn Monroe, Some Like It Hot, when he was a kid, that one's come out a few times, etc. But with the band, some of the background singers are getting their solo spot in the show. I think it's Juno who gets the Michael Jackson beatbox part. That's happened a few shows.
I did see that on one of the videos I was watching. Yeah.
And who is it that does the Running with the Devil? Actually, no. It's Stevie Keys who does the Michael Jackson beatbox, and then it's Juno who's doing the DLR Running with the Devil screams and banter things, like the note perfect ones. And every time you hear it, you go, I think he's blown his voice out, but clearly he knows how to do it without hurting himself. And then I think Devin, the backup singer Devin, on Long Island, he just got a shout out for his hair.
Okay.
And I can't remember the guy who also plays keyboards. His name is escaping me right now. Sorry to not remember everyone's name. He hasn't gotten shout outs, but he gets the fist bump from Dave when he's walking back once or twice during the show.
Yeah, I've seen that a number of times too. Yeah.
but kudos to you, Steve. You were right about something I was wrong about. Long ago, you said, you think there's going to be a lineup change on this tour? And I said, no chance. And I don't know if he's out of the band or he's just missed a bunch of shows, but Kurt, who is one of the 5 backup singers, he was one of the 4 in M3 and one of the 5 at the other shows, not there for some of them. So I don't know if he's gone or if he just missed for personal reasons, but technically a lineup change right there. And crew members have changed.
Crew members have changed. Yeah, I would. No surprise there. Less of a surprise than any band members changing. So,
somebody who's at a show right now, a Diamond Dave show right now, has told me that Dave has been yelling at the sound man at the show again tonight.
Oh,
now, that happened in Pennsylvania on stage where. Bill, I'll say his last name, Bill Matoney, great guy, listens to the show every now and then. He was in the front row and he saw it and we saw it. Dave spit in the direction of the sound guy I don't know if it was a keyboard tech or an in-ear monitor tech or something like that, but that happened. And then I think the next show was the Indiana show where they had keyboard tech problems. They cut the show a little short. Some people tried to go, oh no, it's a casino show, shorter set. Then why were all the other casino shows longer?
Right.
And Dave didn't banter and he didn't do the extended versions. And it was just a short show and him not looking at the crowd. And then I think the next show or two, he was happy and he was shouting out Soundman Steve again. And then I think what was the Ohio show they did?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
That was in day. That was the video. That looked like it was in broad daylight, or at least late afternoon, early evening, or something. Was it a festival or something? I don't know, but I saw a lot of footage of that, and it was most of it I saw was pretty bright outdoors.
So I noticed something. And I picked up on something that I've never caught before. So you know how on this tour, he's doing a lot of like, can you hear me out there?
Yeah.
I think that's legitimately a sound check tactic because at the beginning of that show, he said it 3 times before going into the songs. And if you watch the hand signals, he's actually telling, if you watch closely, and this is like somebody who goes to see Chris Angel 7 times, not me. you know, like, oh, that's the signal for the tricks. You see, he's actually telling Francis when to come in with parts.
Interesting.
Like he's band leading to that extent. So I think that "Can you hear me out there? Can you hear me out there?" is actually sound checking in a way.
A legit question because there's been problems.
Yes, so that was another show where Soundman Steve got his shout-outs again. And Soundman Steve also got shout-outs at the St. Louis show I was at. And I don't think that's just him thanking the crew. I think that's part of the signal of that. So supposedly, allegedly, the show that's going on right now, there's been some things verbally said in the direction of the sound crew tonight.
No, there
Maybe not a great show.
Might be another sound guy for the next gig. Finish the last amount of gigs.
I'm going to take a different. This is one area where I'll criticize. I'll go, maybe if you showed up for sound check, there wouldn't be gear problems. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. There you go. So right now, tonight, as we tape this live, August 31st, Catoosa, Oklahoma. Then we've got Chandler, Arizona on the 4th, the 8th in San Diego. And this is the rest of the California tour. San Diego on the 8th, Temecula on the 10th, Saratoga, California on the 12th, and the final stop, Napa on the 14th. No other dates have been announced as of yet. I haven't heard any rumors. A lot of shows in California. Well, we know a lot of the U.S. still to see.
Let's address that. Regardless of what I may have heard, let's address that.
Yes.
Okay. In Long Island, he kind of filibustered in one of his extended rants, where one of those things where he's talking to the band, but he's really talking to the crowd. You know, like when he gives the crowd, the band, the Rodney Dangerfield, "You're okay," like one of those.
Okay.
But the crowd's supposed to see that, so clearly it's for the crowd, not for the band. You know what I'm talking about, right there? A stage whisper. He was in one of those saying to the band something like, you guys should remember this, because once we're like, when you're playing arenas, they all look the same. You got to remember these shows. And a couple shows later, one of the videos I saw online, he said something like, and next year when you see us at Madison Square Garden in the Forum. And I went, oh, this is not the end.
Yeah,
this
interesting.
Is not the end. That is that illogical to think, putting those two seeds together?
Is a little foreshadowing there? Possibly, probably. Is the hope to do more shows? I could see that.
I think so. And we talked about this on the last episode or two, but the last time Dave as a solo artist was in Japan was 2004. I actually saw that, which was amazingly awesome. That is the source of the "but you don't look like Beyonce" stage chatter, and him talking in Spanish to the crowd. That's in Japan.
In Japan.
But he hasn't been there since 2004. I think England, he was last there in 2004. As a solo artist, I don't think he's been in Australia since 88. Skyscraper.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he's been to South America ever as a solo artist. Am I wrong about that? Like, he did some TV promo stuff for Sonrisa Salvaje. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's one of the many misses of that time period, is that in no way, shape, or form was the Eat 'em and Smile World Tour a world tour.
No, Eat 'em and Smile was just US and Canada, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Skyscraper was a world tour, although it skipped over South America and obviously Africa. Like, South Africa wasn't really a touring destination until maybe 2006, 2008. Like, Turkey is another country that became a Western civilization touring thing.
A Little Ain't Enough, he hit a lot of Europe. I mean, he did, on the Little Ain't Enough tour, there was a lot of shows in England and Europe, if I recall. Yeah, I was just thinking just now, I mean, this is a huge amount of expense, effort, and energy to put in for barely 25 or whatever it is shows. There's got to be more.
Yes, that is what I'm thinking, without asking people who might know, past or present or whatever. And whenever people go like, who are your sources? Let's just say there's a lot of people who know these things. It's not just the people who might be on the road. It could be people that are in the booking agencies. It could be people who are business managers who will work with the numbers. It could be jilted former employees. There's a lot of people who know these kinds of things, whether or not I talk to them. Loose lips happen. There's online people who know, and it just all signs kind of point to there's more to come, because, as you just said, why would you prep a band for 6 months for just like 6 weeks of casino shows?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, he's 71. You can't wait another 6 or 8 months to go back out on the road again or announce more dates.
Yeah. So I think that there's more to come. I think that the set list will evolve. I wouldn't be absolutely shocked if the band touring lineup changes a little bit over time. I haven't heard anything necessarily. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But I just think that when Dave tours, it's usually a 2 to 3 year cycle, or at least that's how it used to be. When he went out with Hagar in 2002, they took a little break. They came back in 2003 because they had the Diamond Dave record. And at first it was regular touring, and then it became Weekend Warrior stuff until like mid 2006 when he had the Strumming with the Devil.
Right. And then, of course, 2007 was a reunion.
Yeah. So that's a case where it actually went a lot longer than planned. But he's usually doing these 2 to 3 years to make the money, and then he blows all the money, and then he comes back in the 2 or 3 years. But I think he's in a different setting of his life. He's in a different financial arrangement in spite of Ink the Original. And it's not the end of Dave, but at the same time, see him while you still can. That's where I think that most of these online commenters and trolls are wrong. When they're just making fun of him, they're going like, please retire. Yeah. And let's just think about the opposite. Let's say he does retire and you never can see him again. You can never see an original member of Van Halen perform classic Van Halen again.
That would suck.
That would suck.
That would be horrible.
Why are you shaming the guy if this is what he wants to do? The band is this hot. I think, tell me if I'm wrong here, the greatest backing band possibly he's had since Vi Bissonette and Sheehan.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think you're going out on a limb there.
So at worst, you have like no perfect backing. And I don't want any of the people going, oh, they're not playing exactly like it.
Good.
High energy
I don't want the same exact songs from the fucking records.
Sure. So that's being done great. And let's say we can call Dave more of a frontman entertainer than a singer, which he's always been. He's still funny, he's still entertaining, and he's high energy the whole show, even if it's not sung the way you want it to be sung.
And by the way, you're not spending $200 on a ticket.
No, these are cheaper shows.
This is the best bargain in rock and roll, people. Come on.
Yeah, seriously. It is not expensive compared to most Live Nation tours and summer tours that are out there. So the whole cash grab argument really, really goes away.
Right.
So where I'll admit there are parts of the show, and having seen it 5 times, Everybody Wants Some is not great. And unfortunately, that's usually the second to last song in the evening. It drags and has an awful outro. And Running with the Devil, Dave is super sloppy every night. That he does not really sing that one.
I gotta tell you, Running with the Devil has never been one of my favorites. I mean, it's kind of a plotting song. I know that's sacrilegious. It's not one of my favorites from the first record. I mean, it's I'm not going to die. It's a great song, and clearly it had a huge, it was hugely important in putting them on the map. But yeah, I don't know. I've heard it enough times, and I've never really been crazy about it live. If they lost that, I'd be fine.
I'm totally with you there. And it's one of those songs where live you go, and then I find that every single time I see Dave live, and I don't just mean in 2025, I mean in 2020, I mean in 2003, 4, 5, 6. I think I saw him in all those years. When you hear Ain't Talking About Love live, out of context with no intro, it rules. It wakes everybody up because they've heard Unchained, they've heard Panama, they've heard all these like riff-driven, heavier songs, and then out of nowhere that riff hits, and people go, "I forgot about that song."
Right?
Wow! And that song just knocks you out live. You go, "Oh, I don't care that it's 2 chords." It's suddenly electric. And then there's other songs like I don't need to hear the cover of Pretty Woman ever again. And that's every night.
Yeah.
He actually sings it though.
Yeah, he does. I was just thinking two big misses so far on this tour, I guess. One, no tour promotion, virtually nothing, nothing going on. Nothing going on social media, even considering how video friendly he has been off and on with all the dance stuff and everything. I mean, my goodness, if you're doing an hour's worth of video in Thailand, shoot 90-second fucking reels, Tom, while you're on the road, little video diaries. Do you remember? I remember, and it used to be in Dave's, I think it's still, some of it's on the back page of Dave's site, but do you remember all like the various, I loved all those photos from like him when he was on the bus, him and Eddie stretching, he's stretching and Eddie's talking. Do you remember that famous picture? And there's pictures of him getting a massage, and there was so much behind the scenes stuff for a while. Give us a freaking reel, man. Throw it up on YouTube, 90 seconds for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying? A quick, speedy, like, time elapse video where Dave's getting off the bus and backstage and on. You know what I mean? Just, you can get so creative and have so much fun with that. That's the first big miss. And the second big miss, no merch, still nothing.
Okay, now before I answer both those points,
a TV show that says Roth Show, a T-shirt that doesn't say Roth Show. Come on.
And Daryl Elber, thank you as always for listening. One of our great listeners, another Eastern Long Islander, like Steve, etc. Now we'll take your comment off there. The no merch thing, I can't tell you how many I Don't Feel Tardy variation shirts I've seen at these different shows. I have a different one than the ones that I've seen at all these different shows. But what you were just saying that before that, yeah, absolutely. Even if he's in the baseball cap and all that. Instead, have you seen the photo of the person autograph hounding him.
Yes, the video. Yeah, there was that video. Yeah.
Dave is actually correct. I asked around. Dave is actually correct. That guy is actually an autograph seeker, and Dave called it like he saw it with that one. But it makes Dave look terrible. And unfortunately, that's the only behind the scenes video we've seen on Dave on the entire tour, an autograph hounder who's trying to bait him.
Trying to bait him. That was shitty. Yeah.
And Dave, like, we see scowl angry Dave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which we all know exists, but it's not really on camera very much. Like,
no,
air conditioner is on in the venue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very rare. I mean, most of the time we've got mugging Dave, I mean, the gigantic larger than life grin all the time, which has been the affectation for about 15, 20 years now.
Yeah, so going back, not to derail us too much, but going back to the Pennsylvania show where Ramses was there and Mr. Matoni and Mr. Matomi, sorry, my bad, and Cindy and et cetera. When Dave was chewing out that tech on stage and we could see it, it was amazing to watch him like spitting and pointing a finger and yelling and slamming his fists and then turning his head with the like he was able to turn his head and have the permagrin. Like that never happened. It is like a superpower how quickly he can go from 0 to 60 with either emotion. Amazing. But as you were saying right there, because I derailed you first about the merch and then
well, I was thinking of the merch because I'm always messing around and scribbling during boring conference calls and stuff. But it dawned on me the other day where it's like Ramses could have done the coolest. This guy could have put together some really cool merch. Roth show, Tour 25,
yes.
Tour dates, that cool picture on the website with the yellow bandera, bullfighter jacket, whatever the hell they're calling it, where he just looks badass.
Bolero, is that?
That's it. Bandolero. Yeah, that's it. I always say it every episode. I love
Sonrisa Salvaje. Yeah,
exactly. Potato, tomato, whatever. But think of what he could do with that stuff, or even some tour support, some promotional videos around the tour.
So front of the shirt would be him in the yellow Bolero jacket.
Yep.
Back of the shirt says either Roth show,
just Roth show, man. It's perfectly balanced, right? 4 letters in each. Roth show, Tour 25, boom, and then you got the tour dates.
The bowling shirts that Francis is wearing on stage, you can see is when he's taking the bow. It says Roth show on the back. So he's made Roth show merch for his band.
That was something I meant to ask you about. I love what Francis is wearing. That bowling shirt, I did not know. I just thought it looked cool. I did not know it said Roth show on the back. And he's the only one that gets away with it because everybody else has got to wear black.
I believe wardrobe was picked out by Dave on this tour. I think Danny's also wearing a bowling shirt. I'd
have to look.
It's hard to see because he's sometimes in the dark, but he made shirts that say Roth show on the back for the band, and then he's not commercially selling them. So I think that one shirt could have his photo and some kind of a tour poster on the front, and the back says Roth show. Another one, different tour photo. The back of the shirt says "Who the show, we the show."
Oh, of course. There you go. Easy.
He says it almost every night. Another shirt, photo of Dave on the front, back of the shirt, look at all the people here tonight. Another shirt, eat 'em and smile graphic on the back, the actual tour dates.
Yeah.
Enough, like, why
$30 a t-shirt? You're golden, easy.
Yeah.
You're making $20 a shirt.
But the lack of the merch. So for anyone who goes, oh man, this tour is a cash grab. Yeah, it's a real cash grab when he's not doing merch.
Right.
What a cash grab. No, this is clearly the Eddie Van Halen tribute that he's doing in his weird way, although he's not saying Eddie's name on stage most of the nights.
Yeah.
I think he only said it at one show.
No solo stuff. It's a Van Halen tribute. No solo stuff. I mean, yeah.
I think the solo stuff may eventually appear, and if so, it's Gigolo and California Girls, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's what I figured too.
But you know what? I wouldn't mind hearing that. I'd rather hear that any day of the week than Pretty Woman or You Really Got Me. I don't need to hear You Really Got Me ever again. And that's one of the songs where he super messes around, isn't trying, makes up the vocal melody, improvs, I forgot the effing words, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's another one where, and that bums me out too, because I mean, while I don't need to hear You Really Got Me ever again, that's one that throws me right back to the first time hearing Van Halen. I mean, come on, that's like the opener. That's right. I mean, you know, that you would never want to leave a set list, even if you're tired of it, because of what that song means.
Oh, I was saying the exact opposite, but
for You Really Got Me.
Yeah, I don't need to hear it ever again.
No, I don't need to hear it ever again, ever. But as far as like a placeholder, like, putting the flag down, this is what we're doing. That song should be early. That's why he used to open with that for a long time, very often, right? And didn't Van Halen opened one of the reunion tours, they opened with that, I think.
You're right about that.
And that's putting the flag down, man. This is what we are here. We, who the show, we the show. We're here to, this is a tribute to Van Halen, is essentially what it is, right? But what we're hearing on this tour, I don't really want it there anymore, man.
And I think only one show I've been to actually 2 of the 5, he's done the Look at All the People Here Tonight. That's not every night anymore. I thought every time I'd ever seen Dave live, if it was a good sized crowd, he did it. Not doing it. I wonder what that one is about, because that's maybe his most famous catchphrase.
Yeah, it reminds me that I'm so glad that long ago the whole Jack Daniels thing left the routine.
You know what? When did that leave the routine? Because he was doing that in 2020 in Vegas.
Wait, was it doing the shot, or was it doing the, spraying the photography pit?
Like he has the whole bottle and he just takes a sip, but then looks back at the crowd like, who, me? I have a bottle jacked. Oh, I'm Diamond Dave. One of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And you don't see him take more than a sip of it, which then makes you go, maybe there's iced tea in there, that kind of a situation. Yeah. I think he is still drinking, but he's not crazy partying with the drinking anymore.
At some point, you got to heed your body, man. I mean, that guy is as great a shape as he's always been in. He's certainly never, he was never a straight edge, never a teetotaler,
I actually have a theory that he is, or was, that it was all for show, and I can't prove it. I mean, aside from the 24/7 cloud of smoke that may or may not be ingested.
Well,
in the
80s, I mean, he was not during the 80s, man.
Not during the 80s. Not during the 90s when he was at Crazy Girls. Oh, by the way, Steve, allegedly not during the 80s and allegedly not during the 90s. But when he was at Crazy Girls all the time, and he was like taking business meetings at Crazy Girls. And I think Linus of Hollywood told the story on this podcast about why he met him at Crazy Girls. Not in the 90s. Early 2000s, he was still touching his nose a lot on stage. Or at least that's how it kind of looked. But I'm thinking he cleaned up his act somewhere in the early 2000s or mid 2000s in the EMT era, or maybe a little before that.
Oh, probably then too in New York, where it was, pretty much he wasn't in the limelight at all, from like 95 to the Sammy tour, right?
So Zoso, because we're talking about this, and thanks for listening, thanks for watching. When you say Dave needs some protein too thin,
agreed.
Is that something that you're also noticing, Steve?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he was always a guy who was cut a bit and, had some muscularity, even, more, some other times more than others. But in particular, I started seeing this around at the last Van Halen tour, 2015. It's like, oh man, he's looking really thin. And that's continued.
Yeah. So I think that there's pros and cons about so many of the things that we've seen. But at the same time, I defend his ability to tour, his right to tour.
Oh, God,
it's a great show when you're there. I love the energy that's in there. it's such a shame that it's a very vocal minority that doesn't represent people who were actually there seeing him on this tour. So I'm hoping that at a certain point, more people will defend this, or more people will just realize, oh, okay, this is a lesson to not listen to trolls and not take the side of the trolls. I know this was a sidebar, Steve, but
No.
hopefully you're going to see him hopefully in 2026.
I'm hoping. I mean, I don't need a date. If the timing's right, I will leave Minneapolis. I do often throughout the year. I just have not been able to see Dave. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. If I could, I mean, there's no way I would miss this. I mean, you can charge me a hefty $75 and I would still go. No, in all seriousness though, I mean, this is going to be it, man. We're not going to be wondering 5 years from now, oh, I wonder if Dave's going to tour again. This is it. You're 71.
So I want your opinion on something, because we have a lot of fine listeners, and we have our trolls. And there was one gentleman who liked to pick fights on all the comments and was talking nonsense about how, why would you guys have a podcast related to Dave? What are you guys, his manager at Walmart? I have no idea what this guy was talking about. But some of the people were also trolling something I reposted, which was the video where Dave told the story about Sammy Hagar, the ghost of Ed visiting him also.
Right.
I labeled the video as Dave was trolling Sammy Hagar, mocking Sammy Hagar. And then other people were going, no, he's paying respect to Hagar.
I originally thought that too. And then I saw a news story the other day where Sam feels that he didn't take it as trolling. Did you see that?
I saw that, which makes me think it's guaranteed Dave was baiting him, kind of like the whole Hagar. Anyone's allowed to come on tour with me, including Dave. And then Dave went, sure, I'm ready. And then Hagar, this was only a year and a half ago. And then Hagar went, no, he can't. He's hard to work with.
What was Dave's dream? He said he came to him in a dream and he said riff to dance the night away was Inagata Davida or something. Was that?
Yeah, he said that like Ed, the ghost of Ed, told him that the song that he gave Sammy was Inagata Davida played backwards, but don't tell him. Yeah, it's a joke. He was trolling him.
Yeah, I thought that's the first thing I thought.
I still believe that, and we had a couple listeners who thought that Sam and Dave were burying the hatchet. No chance. Based on the things that I'm not sharing, no chance.
No,
he is not a changed man like I thought he was 4 or 5 months ago. I was wrong about some stuff, but I think that he's still the misbehaving, fun Dave on stage, and then you probably don't want to deal with him a lot of the time off the stage. That has not changed.
No, that hasn't changed. I just lost my train of thought on that trolling thing. Oh, I know what I was speaking of trolls. I mean, I always figure it this way: we should thank the trolls for upping our engagement and our views. So thank you for spending the time that you are to check us out. I mean, you could be spending that time doing something else. So thank you for sharing it with us.
But opposite of the trolls, a great video that one of our listeners had posted a while ago, and I never caught it. Colt Sievers, he is a gentleman in Chile and great singer in his own right. And he posted this video that I shared with you that explains the Dave vocal style. You know,
that was fascinating. That was really interesting. And he nailed it the time frame too, as far as something changed. He said 93 and 94, something changed.
Yeah, he was explaining it with relation to the song Dance the Night Away, about how, when, and why Dave's vocals changed, and how it's actually a strategy. Did he say he thought it was because of singing lessons?
Was that it? Was that the reason why? I mean, I really like what he did. I got to listen to it I have to listen to it again, because I mean, if you can hit the notes, why wouldn't you? Do you know what I'm saying?
Vocal ADHD. That is why.
I mean, Dave's always had a kind of a thing where, you know, he loves to riff and he likes the jazz thing and never wants to do the same thing, but you know, never wants to do the same thing exactly every single night. Bravo. I love that. But some of these are really far afield. I mean, I was listening to a version of All Weight that was just like, I during the verses, I was like, oh my, what the hell is going on here? You know, I mean,
To rudely interrupt
and
you.
so if he can't do it better, why isn't he?
Some nights he's choosing to sing I'll Wait, and it's his I'm Trying Hard song of the night. And then there's other nights where it's like a butchered thing. And that's how it goes with a lot of these songs. The angry, pissed off Indiana show, he actually sang a lot more, I would say, where he was just like, I'm gonna get through this. I don't care.
And I
where he's not looking at the crowd. And then there's other nights where he's super engaged with the crowd and then doing the exact opposite where he's not trying vocally because he's just trying to entertain. So he has to find that right balance of I'm going to sing and entertain.
I mean, you'd think by now he would have totally figured it out, right?
Yeah. So that I think gives some correlation as to the timeline and why he sounds different, forgiving the rumors from the early 2010s where he had some throat related or health related problems. We still don't know the facts, so I'm not going to speculate, but
I am going to go back and listen to that Cold Seavers because I do remember. Yeah. I mean, is he avoiding it or is he not? There was some good insights there. So, I mean, I'll try to remember to put that link in the notes there. But just, I think it's SEAVERS Cold Seavers. I mean,
yes.
Yeah. It's the only real informed explanation I've ever heard. So,
and it's a heck of a different explanation than, oh, he sucks, he can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Which is most of the commenters, even from supposed Van Halen diehards. Unfortunately,
I will say this: I've read more than a couple reviews. I think it was one of the New Hampshire show, that casino show, where it's like Dave's voice was a little spotty, but improved throughout the night. I mean, no reviewers are running away from it. They're all saying, "Yeah, okay, now let's get to the point where let's not sugarcoat this. There's some real rough spots."
So as we're taping this, one of the big tours that people are talking about right now is the Who Farewell Tour. And people are on Roger Daltrey about his vocals on that tour, understandably. And he's got some years on Dave.
He also was freaking major league sick like 2 years ago.
Sure. I just find that some frontmen these days are getting all the scrutiny in the world. And then others just like, hey, they're having a good time. They're leading the crowd. This is fantastic. Like the last Whitesnake tour or two, and I love Whitesnake and Coverdale and etc. And we've talked about that on this show. People weren't shaming Coverdale for that. They were just going, oh, we're having a good time. And
I noticed that this year with Joe Elliott and Def Leppard and years past.
But I feel that Dave gets 3 times the scrutiny, and people say that, well, he could never sing live. And I will always argue that one. The 99 tour, he was great. The 2007 with Van Halen, he was great. But he wasn't great on the 2012 tour, and he wasn't great on the 2015 tour. It just, a lot of it has to do with, is he trying or is he putting the emphasis instead on how he looks?
Speaking of which, I finally figured it out. And it would have been bugging me. I think last time I said Dave with the hair and those gold glasses. I mean, is this like a Conway Twitty look? And then it hit me. It's not Conway Twitty. It's evil. It's Evil Knievel.
That, I mean, jumpsuit.
Those glasses, the white, at times kind of almost, blondish white hair.
It's a little of that. It's a little Hunter S. Thompson. You could say the Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's also because of the black leather, the Elvis 68 comeback special. I'm still going to argue that.
Yes, that's a good one too. Yeah.
And Daryl right on time, his weight in with the Snake River.
Right on.
so that,
you know.
That's another thing, by the way. I am not on any level ever shaming Dave on how he looks on this tour. If I were in that kind of shape when I was 20, 30, or 40, I would be ecstatic. He's in great shape. People lose their hair. So what? He's trying.
Why do you think I'm wearing a baseball hat?
Yeah. Should he be wearing a hoodie and sweatpants?
Right.
Is that what you want? And so they go, oh, well, you could see the outline of little Dave up there. Oh, who cares? Why are you looking? You don't look. Who cares? Yeah. He's taking flack for that. He's taking flack from the singing. He's taking flack from every angle. And I think, to repeat myself, the 90-ish minutes that he's on stage, when he never leaves and he's giving everything out there, why are you criticizing him? It's not like Jimmy Buffett was Mr. Energy in his last 5 years of touring.
Right. Yeah.
Who are all these great frontmen that can sing at that age and look great and move around? Where are they? Show me those people.
We've said it numerous times. We're glad he's back. I mean, what is the alternative? Us wondering if he's going to be out there at all with and will ever come back, and with each passing year going by, another year older. I'm glad he's finally doing it.
So I regret nothing about attending these 5 shows except coming home sick from St. Louis. I regret that a little bit. Finally getting over that stuff. I will go to more shows if more shows after Napa are announced. Hopefully they eventually are. If he plays in Japan, hey, that's an excuse to go back to Japan. I haven't been back there in a long time. I'd love to see Dave in Japan again. I want to see if he's still talking in Spanish to the crowd. He broke out some Spanish, I think, at the Long Island show.
Did he?
I haven't heard Spanish any of the other shows or nights. What markets? How far would you travel outside of Minnesota? Where would you see him?
Well, I'll tell you, I would have, had I been able to. I would have loved to have seen him in California. I mean, just because I love California. But I mean, Chicago's easy. Milwaukee, Detroit. I mean, the Upper Midwest. Hell, if he's gonna, who knows if might hit like someplace like Fargo or Des Moines or whatever. I mean, there's a whole bunch of the U.S. that would love to see him.
You know why I did that? Because in case somebody from Team Dave is listening, now they're going to have to book those shows.
Right.
and then we'll start to get all the people, start tagging him on social media. Hashtag book North Dakota. Hashtag book South Dakota. Give him the hints on that end. But
I mean, if he did like, say, Seattle, Portland.
And Daryl, what is this, as you said, what does this Minnesota speak of? I mean, hey, Steve did his time on Long Island in Connecticut, and then he made it out to a nicer place.
Never thought 5 years turned into 30. What am I going to tell you? So,
well, I think we've said a lot about these shows. We'll save some rumors for the next episode. The next episode, maybe we'll do an end of the tour recap. Something I want to dig into is some of the web pages on davidleeroth.com that are no longer hyperlinked, but still up if you can find them. I want to dig into that.
They're there. You got to search around. It might take you a minute, but there's some good stuff buried deep in there that was never taken away, considering how little attention. Well, they were posting all the videos up there. I mean, Thailand is up there, so, but there is some older stuff back there. If you can find it, the Roth project is still there. Artwork is there. But if you dig around a little bit, you can find a few things.
We'll see what we can find in the process of that. I mean, two quick things we didn't talk about: the Balance box set, but I would recommend, rather than us talking about that, listen to Dave and Dave Unchained, because they picked that one apart. They sent me that to unbox, which I did for the Paltrowit box, but Dave and Dave Unchained really went into depth on that, because they cover more of the Hagar stuff. But the Hagar Residency live album that they're compiling from those Vegas dates, I don't think we're going to see any of that for the Dave tour.
Okay.
Yeah. What are your predictions? Will there be any more news before year's end?
From Dave?
From or about Dave?
I think there's got to be more tour dates. I mean, listen, we're rounding the corner into September now. The year end, close of the year is going to come quick. If you're going to do some dates for December, round out the end of the year, get some dates for December. You got to announce them pretty quickly. Then you're heading into, October. Are you going to start the first quarter of the year, doing something. I mean, 90 to 120 days inside of that to announce a tour. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's got to be some sort of critical mass to announcing these, because that's basically what happened with these dates. You had M3, and then right afterwards, we saw the tour, the whole tour dates come out, and there's certainly been plenty of time to book things. So, and I think this is the leg. Everybody knows this is the leg. I think if they were going to do a bunch of dates immediately after this, they would have announced it. So if the routing is going to include a bunch more shows, they got to do the announcement all at once. I don't think all of a sudden we're going to see an announcement 3 weeks from now going Dave in Phoenix on October 15th. Do you know what I mean? Could happen.
I'm with you. I think that this is the leg. If I were predicting, I would say by and before mid-November, we see more dates announced.
Dates for the new year.
That's what I would predict. And this is not based on me asking or knowing anything. I would base this on the fact that they waited till after M3 to announce the next batch of dates. And they did that within 48 hours. And I think that was to an extent of, let's see how this goes. And if this goes, we have the whole backup plan done. Because most people don't realize this unless they're industry people, that booking agents hold dates before they're announced. And they might go, well, in case it sells out, let's hold the second night and the third night and the fourth night. And then that way the internal calendar at that venue has a list of holds. And then people challenge you to release the holds if they want the date just in case. Because you can't book 300 shows. They'll go, do you really want it? Or if not, we'll take it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dave has had the first or second hold on a lot of dates at a lot of venues, and they had some kind of clause to go, and we decide when it's announced based on X, Y, and Z. In other words, so many contractual points that we're not privy to.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you could conceivably in the first couple of weeks, September, announce that next leg that hopefully maybe starts in December, runs into January.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to. I don't think they shoehorn another 20 dates between September and the end of the year.
Sure. I wouldn't be shocked if there was a big money New Year's Eve gig, but then again, who knows if that's
a big money private gig. Yes.
Yeah. Right now on Long Island, in the past week, I think there was a Metallica private gig. I think my wife was just telling me there was a Billy Idol Cape Cod private gig or Massachusetts private gig. A lot of our favorites are doing private gigs right now, but I saw a thing or two of Steve Stevens openly talking about private gigs. So whether it's Dave or Kings of Chaos or Royal Machines, I think that there's a New Year's Eve gig in Dave's future. Just Dave does not strike me as somebody who goes, I got to be home for Christmas. I got to be home for Thanksgiving. He's probably in a forest or on a lake,
a rainforest somewhere.
Yeah. So we're not talking about somebody who lives a schedule like you and I do. We're talking about somebody akin to a professional wrestler who goes, oh, it's Christmas. That means I'm wrestling twice that day.
Yeah. I think it would be a really great call to announce that first week of October. Bam. Here's the next leg of the tour dates, January, February, March, a bunch of them in North America, the US and Canada. It's got to, get some dates up in Canada too. I think would be cool. Right. And you could easily route another 20, 25 markets.
Here's why I think we're going to get new dates in the really near future. And this is using my thinking cap, but then again, logic does not always apply in David Lee Roth.
No one said there'd be math involved.
So the way that he religiously rehearses his bands or tells his bands to rehearse and has them on payroll and all those kinds of things. If the band comes off the road in early to mid-September and then is off for 6 months, he's then going to make them do 75 rehearsals again.
Yeah.
Whereas if he just goes, you guys are off for 2 or 3 months, he's not going to make them do 75 rehearsals again. It'll go like, okay, 2 weeks, we'll get the show back on
Yeah,
the
they're
road.
still dead on tight.
And also, if that band was not working for 4 months or 6 months, they're going to take other gigs.
They are in demand. They can do other gigs.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine, not that it's like their asking price goes up threefold, but if you were in a band with a singer, like a superstar artist who loved Van Halen, and you need a new guitar player, why wouldn't you get Al Estrada to play your whole tour?
Right.
And for Dave to replace Al Estrada, it's not like that would be, okay, I'll get a guy from Romeo Delight or Atomic Punks and they'll be in there in a week. No, that's a lot of rehearsals.
I'll tell you right now, every single review has pointed out Al and how great he's playing. And I don't want to say anybody's irreplaceable, but I'm hoping the days of I don't want to see Al be replaced, because I think that would be I don't want to see any of those guys be replaced, but I could see it if Francis all of a sudden has some gigs or something 10 months from now. And certainly Ryan has done so many other things with people, right? But yeah. Al, if there's a linchpin there, it's got to be the guy who could replicate and even go beyond. I mean, he's not always playing everything note for note, which I love. He's adding little flourishes, little bits and pieces there, and but he's not straying too far. I don't want to say he's irreplaceable, but this late in the game, he's got to stay.
I'm going to say, is irreplaceable to the extent of they wouldn't be able to go, oh, we're not going to cancel tonight. We're going to just get a guy from the local Van Halen tribute band. You couldn't just do that.
Right.
Like you could arguably go, oh, Al is sick. Let's fly in Frankie Lindia because he did some of the shows in 2020, or Jake Fawn, and because he did some of the shows in 2020 and they know the whole show, and that's great. You arguably could do that and it'll sound fine, but are you sure that Frankie doesn't have a gig, and are you sure Jake doesn't have a gig?
Right. Yeah.
So I think that the tightness of the band is why we're going to see more activity very soon. And we get another hello from a great Van Halen podcaster who's been very supportive of us, Fruitcake Tony. If you need guitar picks, you talk to Fruitcake Tony. Thank you, Tony. But what I'm saying here is that's a factor that people aren't really discussing, that it's not a cash grab on top of, you got to capitalize while the momentum's hot, on top of, these guys are not available endlessly forever. It's not like it's a whole band of independently wealthy people. These are people who are going to clamor to other gigs.
Right. These are working musicians.
These are working singers and musicians. You're going to strike while the iron's hot. As we've talked about, they haven't been to Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota and Arizona and Louisiana and Georgia and North Carolina. There's a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of overseas stuff, and I just see it being announced sooner than later.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Great stuff. Hopefully we have stories for the next one that don't entail Soundman Steve being fired. Maybe a special guest on the next episode. Maybe some notes from the road someone will leak. Whatever it is, thanks to everyone who's listening. Thanks to everyone for the support. Thanks to Steve for his patience. Steve, you feeling good? You healed up? You good?
We're getting there. I may have tried to do things too much too soon, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. Nothing but yeah. And if there's anything that we have missed, we've gotten wrong, and you're not a troll, the DLR Cast at Outlook.com, correct?
The DLR Cast at Outlook.com, correct.
And on X, we are at the DLR Cast. And Steve, your name of your podcast.
Another cool rock podcast. Been on hiatus as I go through getting a new hip installed and some other things at the end of the summer. I wouldn't say hiatus, but just a little bit of lull, but got a bunch of new episodes upcoming through into September. So there you go.
And who is on the last few episodes for those who have not yet checked it out?
Oh my goodness. You're going to put me on the spot here because I'm so bad with names. The last episode, I just did a quick little, should have been huge sort of segment with a band that I used to love called the Churchills. And, yeah, do you remember them back in New York? Yeah. Yeah. I worked with them long ago for a minute. I was digging through my record collection, and I've got, as I'm sure we could do a whole another podcast all about stuff that should have been huge. 1 or 2, maybe 3 records, maybe only 1 album, but those bands are like, how did these guys not get big for whatever reason?
I was at a really random Churchill's gig where it was a pilot that we didn't know that it was a pilot being filmed for VH1's Bands on the Run. Do you remember that series?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they were a band that, did get a lot of MTV play. They were in New York, and they were, in the credits for different things. They got a lot of TV. Sopranos. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the VH1 taping of that pilot which is just at this random club on like the Chinatown border of New York City, close to Brooklyn. It was them, Not a Surf, and Fuzz Bubble, because they're looking for bands.
Fuzz Bubble, yeah.
Long Island's own, and then they signed to this great music executive named Sean Diddy Combs, his label called Bad Boy, and the album never came out. And then Not a Surf, of course, got much bigger as an independent band that rebuilt itself. But for some reason, the Churchills were on that pilot, and I guess turned down the show when it went to series.
Yeah, so we had the Churchills. Before that, I had this guy Brian Durbin out of Chicago. Rightfully calls himself a hair metal guy, but he's so much more than that. The guy can shred, write songs. Really super nice guy. It's been fun meeting a lot of new artists I ordinarily wouldn't have met. So we're slowly growing a little something on this little podcast. So who the hell knows?
Glad you're healing it. Can't talk tonight. Glad you're healing up. Glad you're hearing up too. And your podcast is doing great things. Thanks again to everyone who's still listening. And Steve, any last words for the kids before we go?
As Darren always says, nothing but yeah.
Nothing but yeah. Thanks all.